There are two important facts about life you might not know. One, no mineral is more crucial to longevity than magnesium. Two, the most effective form of magnesium is stabilized magnesium ions. That's where REMAG comes in by Dr. Carolyn Dean. Experience the benefits of stabilized ionic magnesium and support your health today. Visit RNAreset.com and use offer code MIRACLE10 for 10% off your first order. Visit RNAreset.com and use offer code MIRACLE10 for 10% off your first order.
Welcome to the 5 o'clock show. It's time for Common Sense. Now, it's Katz and Cosby with John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby, standing for truth, justice, and the American way, bringing common sense to the world. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby.
And that is the sound of the New York Stock Exchange, and President Trump was in town, and John Katzimatidis, you were right there. Tell us about this incredible moment.
Well, it was an incredible moment that he had half his cabinet up there.
At least.
He brought his cabinet with him, and he asked them to stand behind him. He got a double hit today because he's also Time Magazine's Person of the year.
Well deserved.
And he got up there and says, we're going to save the world. He's going to cut taxes. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. He's going to drill, baby, drill. And it was a very exciting morning.
And guess what? It was also, I want to give you a shout out because I want to give not just you, John Katzimatidis, but WABC, because he singled out one individual and one media organization. And here it is.
John, great job you've done at ABC. I'm really proud of you, and you've been so nice to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually acknowledge you at all. But you have been. That really is. It's a terrific job you've done.
That was awesome, John. Well, everybody watching that, yay! Around the world, watch that, John.
This is a worldwide conference with the, with the president. It was something nice, and I'll tell you. I only got worldwide one other time before. We bought part of a public company, and we were on a worldwide thing with Bear Stearns. And they had the worldwide thing, and I was so tired I snored.
Oh, no.
So they said it was a snore that went around the world.
Oh, I love it.
Well, you didn't snore today.
No, I didn't snore today. It was early in the morning, and President Trump did a great job. And he gave the world confidence that he's going to put it together. And I think the world has confidence.
And you know what? He deserves Person of the Year. In the studio, we have with us Judge Richard Weinberg, also Ed Cox, and also Governor David Paterson, and longtime FBI guy. We're so happy to have you, one of the head guys, the head guy in New York for many years,
Assistant
George
Director
Venizelos.
That's
it.
I finally learned how to say it right.
Yeah, he's only been with us.
After 8 years.
That's what I was going to say. How many years? So what an amazing moment, guys. But well deserved that President Trump got Person of the Year. I mean, Ed Cox, who else has really transformed? I want to read one of the lines that they said. They said, Trump's political rebirth is unparalleled, altering America's role in the world. I'm just proud of Time Magazine that they picked the right person.
And the world is already reacting to him, even though he has not been sworn in. It'll be more than a month before he is sworn in.
Yeah, it's already like don't you think of it? It's almost like he's already the president, it seems. Like at Notre Dame, everybody was coming over to him, and it really is an incredible moment. What are your thoughts, Gov Patterson?
Well, in this particular episode, almost all of his family was there. Melania was there, all of them.
And his new favorite person, Joe Biden, was there too.
Right. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, we missed that one. But to John's point, it was an impressive array. My jaw dropped when I saw it. I was like, wow, look who's there. Doug Burgum, who's been on the show, was there. RFK Jr. was there. Kelly Loeffler was there. Pam Bondi, the Attorney General pick. I mean, it was a full array, and there was just a small audience, and you were there.
Pam Bondi came over to me, gave me a kiss, and told me to say hello to Judge Weinberg and say hello to Rita.
Oh, how nice. See, we got a shout out too, Judge.
No, she's terrific.
We got a shout out
Pam
too.
is wonderful. We know her when she was Attorney General of Florida. She's wonderful.
I love Pam, and I actually go back with Pam, I think since the 1990s, actually. I interviewed her a long time ago in Fox. I love Pam. She's great. And so many friends of the show up there. Also, guys, everybody is talking about what just happened. Let's do a little bit of breaking news, because this was kind of big breaking news, and it happened here in New York City.
Breaking news, WABC.
And just a little bit ago, an amazing sight, Mayor Eric Adams, the New York City mayor, came out and he made statements after he met with Tom Homan. And he said that he and Tom Homan, who is the Trump border czar, the real border czar, not like the last one, but he said that they're on the same page and that they will work together, John, and they will kick out criminal migrants, those who have have done serious crimes. And he said that there are a lot of them, sadly, in New York. And he said that we have the same goal, the same mission. They had a meeting in New York. And John, I think they were listening to you, because they said we're going to go after the criminal migrants and we're going to work together.
If you remember correctly, a few months ago when I met with President Trump, I said to him, let's stop talking about we're going to get rid of 20 million people. It's not going to happen. Let's get rid of the criminals. And for the economic conference he had like a week later with Ed Cox that was there, that's what he said. And the fact is, Eric Adams, I understand today, said, yes, we are going to get rid of the criminals. Well, enough is enough. Let's get rid of those damn criminals.
And you know what he said?
I want to get rid of the criminals that beat up the Governor Patterson.
Those are the first ones I want to get. Those are the first ones.
There's going to be a rematch of that fight, by the way.
My bet's on you. I
was going to put him on that Iranian cruise ship out there and then sink the ship.
Don't tell Jeff Van Drew. Don't tell him. Oh, my goodness.
Sink that ship.
So get this, John, too. Also, Tom Homan came out and said, not today at the same press conference, but he came out and said, guess where we're going to start with the mass deportations of the worst of the worst?
Chicago.
Because the mayor there has been fighting him tooth and nail. What do you make of that, George Venizelos?
Good for him. Good for him.
Hey, you know how many black kids died in Chicago that didn't have to die?
Yeah, and they don't talk about that.
Because of the mayor, the dumb mayors they have in Chicago?
Yeah, and he doesn't talk about that whatsoever.
They killed so many of those beautiful kids.
It's a travesty. It's a travesty. And he's still defending, we're not going to have anybody deported. And last night there was a city council meeting in Chicago, and African-American, citizens and everybody were coming out and saying, hey, what about us? Yeah. To John's point.
Who's going to protect us?
Yeah, who's going to protect us? By the way, speaking of protection, George Venizelos, since we got you here, the drones. Everyone is talking. What are you hearing? You spend assistant director, as John finally got the title, right?
And I live in New Jersey, and I live close to where some of those drones are going over.
Maybe they're flying over your house on purpose. Maybe there's something there.
The problem with this story is it's taken a life of its own now. The longer it goes unsolved, the more speculation is going to be out there, and it's going to create a panic. It's already creating a panic,
Well, what's creating a panic we don't know.
Everybody, you remember the movie Independence Day?
Yes. Right. Yes.
They were standing on top of the roof saying, "Oh, how beautiful those things are!" And all of a sudden, poof.
Yeah. It also reminds me of the terrorist threats after 9/11, where everybody was panicking. And the people who are doing this, whether it's the foreign, they're enjoying this. They're creating a panic.
Right. And the U.S. government, if they know more than they're saying, they need to say something.
They need to come out.
Because
Absolutely.
You know what happened? John Kirby, the spokesperson, came out today and said, there's nothing to be concerned about, but we don't know what it is, essentially.
And that is the biggest non-statement you'd ever hear in your life.
Yeah, exactly.
They do not pay Kirby enough.
Yeah, they don't.
He came short of saying it's people's imagination.
Right. Yes. He said it.
It's nobody's imagination.
So
they're out there.
Did you see what happened?
The helicopter saw them.
Then members of Congress came out and said, that guy's an idiot. That's what they said about Kirby. Tell people so you don't create this panic.
And the concern is these aren't the kids' drones. These are sophisticated. These are big. They're tough. Where are they coming from? Are they coming from ships? Are they coming from here? So They really have to start telling the truth.
And then they're saying if you stare at them, they go dark.
Right.
Yes.
Right. If you come
What does
close,
that
they have like
mean?
a
Right.
shield. Yeah.
I mean, what do you make as somebody who was with the FBI? What does that say? When you look at them, they go dark, but they have some sort of a thermal shield on it. That's pretty sophisticated.
No, it makes you think. Is it something?
You can't buy that at Walmart, George?
Is somebody testing a new system?
Right. So say it. Don't create
Exactly.
panic. Where Congress is panicking and Kirby and everybody else.
This is something that only the armed forces can figure out. They've got the helicopters, whatever has to.
But then
track
they
them
say,
down
but then
or
they
take
say
them
it's not
down.
U.S. military, Ed. They're saying it's not.
They should know. They should have known yesterday.
Yeah, they should have. Before we let you go, George, too, really quick on the CEO shooting. This is this horrible case with the Luigi Mangione. And now there's some new details coming out. Luckily, it looks like they got him. I mean, if you look at the picture,
No, it's him.
It's him. But now there's forensic, right?
No, and it's creating a panic around all the CEOs in the city because this is a case where this kid didn't even know this man. He's just symbolic or something.
Yeah, but what is he doing with the
You know?
$10,000 in cash and the foreign money? Something smells.
There's always something.
Something smells. I mean,
something.
maybe somebody paid him.
Well, that's what you have to wonder.
I tell you that the personal protection people are going to start making money.
Yeah,
All these
personal.
CEOs,
Well,
they're going to. Everybody's going to have protection now.
by the way, speaking of personal protection, and we were talking about this too, the report that came out about that shooter in Florida. How about the details of that?
Right.
Now we're hearing that the Secret Service agents fired 6 times.
5 feet away.
5 feet away and missed. That's on the
That's
shooter in
impossible.
Florida.
You
I mean,
can't-
come on.
You can't miss 5 feet away, and can't. But maybe I'm going to tell you another
know.
theory. Maybe I'll tell you another theory. He intentionally missed. You can't miss 5 feet away, George.
I know.
6
I know.
times. 6 times
You
missing.
cannot.
Yeah.
Ed Cox, you and the Rangers. Tell me.
That's right.
Yeah, yes, you can. With a pistol, you can, particularly if your hand's shaking. And he was shooting
You have a Secret Service agent with his hand shaking?
That's not
you
good
bet.
either,
Under those
right?
circumstances, that rifle was pointing maybe at him, and he was going to shoot. But he was shooting at the rifle. He didn't. I don't think he saw the guy actually behind the rifle.
Right, he saw the
rifle,
right.
and shooing at that, he may have been off
5
5
feet
feet
away?
away. He needs glasses. I mean, he needs something.
Maybe he does.
Anyway,
Can you be in the Secret Service
John.
and wear glasses? Is that allowed?
I don't know. I mean, to me, that to me is nice. Also, real quick, the January 6th report, as we have these details, and we were talking about it before.
Right.
George, your assessment,
Yeah.
because it came out that there were confidential human sources there on January 6th, 3 of them that they knew about and 23 that they didn't know about that were there on January 6th. How do you read it, George
What do you mean
Venizelos?
they didn't know about it? I mean,
There were 3 that were authorized to be there, put in the
Right.
crowd.
Other ones that just
23
showed up there?
that on their own
Well,
happened to be there.
First of all, my opinion is if you don't have confidential informants there, you're not doing your job. You should have confidential informants in all these protests. to give
Especially when you know it's a big crowd.
Yeah, to give you a heads up if something's going wrong, or heads up where they're going. Not knowing they're there, I don't know how good they were. But having confidential informants, you should have them. If they had none, then I would be concerned. Then I would be concerned that there's something's going on and they don't know anything that's going on.
Although they didn't say like what the role of these informants
They could
were.
have been, you know,
Were they inspiring the crowd? I'm just throwing it out there.
well, I don't know. I don't
We don't
think so.
know.
Yeah.
Right. We don't know. We don't know. But you're right. I mean, they should.
Right.
I was happy to hear they should at least have some in the crowd.
Right.
But we never sort of heard about it before. Remember when they were asked about it, everyone saying, oh, it's conspiracy. Now at least they know there were some.
Right.
We just don't know what the role.
What their roles were. They were just there, just giving information.
Right.
There's all different levels of
Yeah.
confidential informants. There could be a lower level informant that just gives information that's sometimes useless.
Yeah.
It depends on the person.
Yeah, and boy, was it a crazy day. All right, George. Keep us posted, especially on the
Governor
drones.
Patterson wanted to say something.
Uh-oh.
Oh, John, I was just going to say, why don't we go down to Florida and we'll go to that golf course and we'll,
glasses.
We'll bring a pistol and we'll set up a dummy where the Secret Service was. And if I get 6 shots, I'll bet you I hit 3 of them.
I bet you hit 5.
My money's on the governor.
Yes. Absolutely. Touche. Well, joining us now to talk about this big meeting that happened today with Eric Adams and Tom Homan right in New York City is Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. What did you make, Congresswoman? I thought, wow, what a great step in the right direction. The mayor came out afterwards and said he and Tom Homan, the borders are on the same page. They're going to try to get rid of the worst of the worst, the criminal migrants in New York City, and he said he's going to do everything in his power to try to make it happen.
Well, first of all, I agree with you. It's a step in the right direction, but I also have to question the mayor here, because under the existing 2014 law that Bill de Blasio and the council put in place, the sanctuary policy, he does have the ability to cooperate with ICE detainer requests in situations where it is a violent offender, where it is a sex offender. Remember, we got the sex crimes added to the list of crimes in which NYPD can cooperate with ICE. That was a result of my mayor's campaign, and we put that pressure on the mayor, and he added those sex crimes, and yet the mayor is not cooperating with any of them right now. And the ones that we're getting from the Biden administration, I mean, these are really bad people, right? These are the worst of the worst.
Nicole, let me ask you, when
cooperated with zero.
When you're talking about, are you talking about regular criminals versus criminal, like the migrants who have been convicted of crimes? When what you're just talking about?
I'm talking about people who are here illegally that have committed crimes. ICE wants to detain and deport them, and our mayor and the city have not cooperated with any of these requests. And
didn't the mayor reverse himself today and says we're going to cooperate?
Yeah, he said he would. Are you saying that he hasn't done it up till this point? Is what you're saying?
And I'm saying he had the ability to cooperate when it was the worst offenders.
But
right?
there's a new
Nicole.
I love you, but there's a new sheriff in town. He's called Donald Trump.
Well, I know, and I think that Donald Trump is maybe pushing the mayor to do the right thing here. But the point is if the mayor really wanted to get rid of these people, he had the authority to do so.
All right, I mean, let's play the music. Donald Trump has made New York safe again.
But you know what? It's true that he's sort of putting the pressure on Mayor Eric Adams, and he's vowing today now to do it, right? I mean, but your point is he could have done it all along. He also brought up, by the way, Nicole, that he would have to maybe do some executive orders because he's realizing the city council is not thrilled about him helping whatsoever.
And I have been calling for him to issue executive order saying this has been a public emergency and cooperate with all the detainer requests. So really, this is great news.
Well,
it is a step in this direction.
Nicole, did you see what happened to the Chicago mayor that didn't cooperate?
What happened, John?
But they're saying Tom Homan came out and
make
said,
my day.
Yeah, make my day, like Clint Eastwood. And he said that, you know what, if you don't cooperate, I will prosecute you. And he said he's starting the mass deportations in the Windy City.
And you know what? The truth is these politicians who are harboring illegal immigrants. They need to be held accountable. And so Homan is absolutely right. I'm glad that they're sending a very clear message to these sanctuary city mayors that the party's over. Now it's time to do the right thing by the citizens, our national security and public safety. But it just like the mayor acting as if he's been tough on crime this entire time, that he's always said he wanted to put public safety first is ridiculous to me, because even with the little authority he does have for violent offenders, he has chosen not to use it. And so I would say it's good news, but it's a little too late.
Now, you know what? You know, it was interesting, Nicole, too. One of the other things I found interesting when Mayor Eric Adams came out, he said there was a Biden administration official there in the meeting. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. And he also called out, he kind of like indirectly called out the Biden administration. He brought up, John, we've talked about this, how it's 300,000 missing kids in this country. He brought up that there are 500,000 missing kids in this country who have come over illegally.
Robert Unanaway from Goya has been telling us that for months and months.
Isn't that I mean, that's a stunning number. And he said these people, the hypocritical nature of these people who say they care about kids and have done nothing to find these 500,000. What did you make of that, Nicole?
Well, I mean, remember how much criticism they gave President Trump for separating children. he wanted to make sure that those were their actual parents, that they weren't child traffickers. And what I would say is that this is so wrong what our government has done. This Biden administration has incentivized, has allowed for this trafficking of children to take place. And it's not just children, women who have been, raped along the journey, people have died drowning. That is not a compassionate system. The only ones who have benefited from what this administration has done is the cartels. Billions of dollars more in their coffers to then turn around and poison Americans with their fentanyl and the drug trafficking and all the other things that they've been doing. And these migrants, really, they've all paid thousands of dollars, or they're being in involuntary servitude to pay off their debt to these cartels. We should have never, this administration, Biden, should have never allowed this to happen. And where are those children is a really great question.
It is.
I would like to know, everyone is asking those questions in Washington, and we get no answers from this administration. They have no idea.
Well, maybe some good news for Nicole. Look at that breaking news right here. Read that.
Okay, this is just coming in here. All right. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi is reportedly working behind the scenes to put the kibosh on Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's dream of taking a powerful Democratic House position in the new Congress. So apparently Pelosi and AOC are battling each other.
No more left wing?
Oh, let's hope.
No more socialists?
Maybe they saw the American public and saw the election last time. That was a resounding no, no, and no.
She thinks she's still the speaker.
She's still pulling the
She's
strings.
always been the speaker. She didn't go away. They were just,
Isn't there a guy named Jeffries there?
I think he was the front. I like Hakeem Jeffries. He's a very nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
But Pelosi is the killer.
Yeah, as Biden found out.
That's why she made him speaker.
Well, that's what happened. That's why Kevin McCarthy went downstairs after he got screwed on the vote and threw her out of the speaker's office, and she still had the speaker's office.
That's right. She was very upset. He did that within minutes, too. That's right, John. I remember that. Governor Patterson, real quick, you got a question.
So, Nicole, I remember your mayoral campaign and what you said about the migrants some years ago, and I remember some of the calls that you made at that time. Now that they're coming true, I wouldn't say it's too little too late. If I were you, I would claim victory.
Yeah, well, look, I'm certainly happy because we've been fighting for this, right? These are the things that we've been fighting for, and we've held press conferences and rallies, and we did legislation. We passed legislation to cancel the lease at Floyd Bennett Field, the migrant encampment there. But you know what? It was the people at the end of the day. It was the listeners out there. It was you at the end of the day that voiced your concerns and anger at the ballot box. You sent a very clear message to the White House, the Democrats in Washington, to the mayor, to the governor, that you were unhappy. And that is, at the end of the day, what switched the tide, turned the tide here. It is the power of the people. And we were the ones who kept the pressure on.
Nicole, did you hear what President Trump said at the New York Stock Exchange worldwide this morning?
Yeah, let's play it, Nicole. This is a great one. Here it is.
John, great job you've done at ABC. I'm really proud of you, and you've been so nice to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually acknowledge you at all. But you have been. That really is. It's a terrific job you've done.
Isn't that great, Nicole? He gave a huge shout out to John.
That was a worldwide message.
That's right. I think we all deserve a little credit for sharing the truth with New Yorkers and getting them on our side to the point where 15% more New Yorkers voted for President Trump this time around. And they know the truth about what's happening. President Biden lied about these people being vetted. The mayor kept incentivizing people to come to New York City by offering them free stuff. And then when crimes were committed, none of the Democrats cared to put effort into getting these individuals removed.
I got to point out, the guy in California, what's the new senator's name?
Oh, Schiff. Is Shifty Schiff?
Schiff never told the truth in his life.
Yeah, Peter King used to say that.
Peter King was here.
Right, he'd say something different privately than publicly.
Peter King was here. He says, we left the meeting at the Homeland Security. He went upstairs. He said something completely different.
He said every time it was something totally different than what they were actually briefed on behind closed doors. Well, at least he was consistent.
Unbelievable.
Time for a break. We got
Nicole, thank you. You're
we need
terrific.
a break, Nicole. We love you.
Great
Nicole,
to be with you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. And everybody, when we come back, Greg Jarrett, some big, interesting developments on Daniel Penny and January 6th.
Janine Pirro here with an urgent warning. While we celebrate Trump's historic win, inflation continues to drain your IRA and 401k. And China is now targeting your money with a kill shot on the dollar. That's why thousands of Americans are shielding their savings with gold and contacting the experts at Colonial Metals Group. For a free 2024 gold guide that explains everything, go to freegoldguide.com/Pirro, Pirro, or call 800-965-8004. Don't let America's enemies ruin this victory and steal your retirement money. The experts at Colonial Metals Group are the only folks that I trust to bulletproof your wealth in gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/Pirro or call 800-965-8004, 800-965-8004 for a free 2024 gold guide to learn how you can protect your life's work and if you can qualify for a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver now. freegoldguide.com/Pirro.
Roger Stone here with an urgent warning. While we celebrate Trump's historic win, inflation continues to drain your IRA and 401k. And China is now targeting your money with a kill shot on the U.S. dollar. That's why thousands of Americans are shielding their savings with gold and contacting the experts at Colonial Metals Group. Gold has protected American wealth through every financial war. For a free 2024 gold guide that explains everything, go to freegoldguide.com/Stone or call 800-747-6589. So go to freegoldguide.com/Stone or call 800-747-6589. That's 800-747-6589 for a free 2024 gold guide to learn how you can protect your life's work and if you qualify for a free home safe and up to $7,500 in free silver right now. That's freegoldguide.com/Stone.
A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Cats and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Cats and Cosby. Well, a big report just came out from the Inspector General about January 6th, who was in the crowd. And joining us to talk about that and a whole bunch more is the great Fox News legal analyst, Greg Jarrett. Greg, what did you make of the fact that they're finally saying that there were some, confidential human sources that the FBI said there, to be there? There were 3 of them. And then there were a whole bunch that just kind of happened to be there, but they're revealing at least that there were some in the crowd that day.
Yeah, I'm stunned by the total number, 26 of them. I mean, that's a lot of CIs, confidential informants, although, the FBI claimed, and I don't believe them for a moment, that only 3 were assigned to be there. Only 1 entered the Capitol, but 2 others were in restricted areas. Jim Jordan, who's the Judiciary Chair, responded this way. He said, this report confirms what we suspected, that the FBI had encouraged and tasked informants to be at the Capitol that day, 26 in all. A few entered the Capitol, but were not charged, which is not the same treatment that other Americans received. So really, this has been his concern all along, that agencies were being weaponized against the American people. And as Jordan said, this is not how our system is supposed to work, and he's right about that.
It is interesting. I was watching some of the details too, as you're talking about, Greg, that there are so many people that are still locked up. And Trump came out today and said he'll start pardons on January 6th on day 1. And there are a lot of people that are behind, closed, that are locked up that have been there for now years after they just entered the Capitol. There's some of them, obviously, there's some that, obviously if they hurt an officer, that's a different deal. But there's some that are in there for other, much lesser, walking on a property with an open door. And yet none of these informants conveniently got charged with anything.
Yeah, and of course we've seen Capitol Police inviting people in, and yet some people who did absolutely nothing except for setting foot in a public place were charged with a variety of trumped-up crimes. I mean, when everybody calms down and history is written, this will go down as one of the most egregious abuses of power and injustices by the Department of Injustice under Merrick Garland. I mean, this is what he and his minions have done at the DOJ. They've done it at the FBI. They have weaponized their authority for political purposes. And they're busy shredding documents, trust me on this, at the DOJ and the FBI. Among the people that the FBI was spying on is Kash Patel, who has been nominated to replace Christopher Wray, who says he's going to resign. So, I mean, this is truly ugly stuff, and it's only going to get uglier when people start pouring through documents and, we find out what was really going on.
Yeah, we just need to, and the American public just needs to know the truth wherever it goes.
Yeah, they want to know the truth.
Absolutely, 100%. And Greg, Judge Weinberg has a question.
Greg, good to talk to you. Why don't you contrast that to the way the BLM and the Antifa rioters who caused real damage, real death back 4 years ago, how they were treated, and how about the BLM leader here in New York who's just threatened Daniel Penny? What's going on with that?
This is a case where, because of the color of your skin, you can get away with it. The racial justice warriors outside the courthouse on the day of the verdict of not guilty for Daniel Penny unleashed a variety of despicable threats, calling for black vigilantes, retaliation, threatening directly Daniel Penny. They not only deserve our disdain, but they deserve prosecution. You are not allowed to make and direct imminent threats at specific individuals. And, that's what they did. That's inciting violence, and that's a crime. It's a felony. What's equally disgusting is that these demagogues have so many witless disciples cheering them on. And you're right to make a comparison to the riots of the summer of 2020, egged on by BLM. You're talking about murders, beatings, arson, looting, vandalism of all kinds, officers injured, and yet the prosecution of those people was almost non-existent.
Greg, we were just talking about Daniel Penny, the judge brought up. Did you hear this? That first off, that the Neely family is looking at the civil suit against Daniel Penny, but it just came out a couple hours ago that the Penny team may now they're thinking of doing a lawsuit against Alvin Bragg for malicious prosecution. Your reaction to that?
Well, they should do it. My advice would be to do it. It's an uphill battle in New York because the higher courts in New York have made it exceedingly difficult to sue a prosecutor for malicious prosecution. But it can be done where you find evidence of bad faith and collusion, for example, between the prosecutor's office and the medical examiner's office, and I suspect there was. So, Penny should absolutely bring a case for malicious prosecution. I think once that's filed and there's discovery, I think they may find an astonishing amount of incriminating information.
Trump? Greg, what about Trump bringing the same kind of case, since we know there's a direct linkage between the White House and Garland and the local prosecutor they brought down from the Justice Department, number 3 guy to prosecute that case against Trump?
Well, the first thing you'd have to do is get a dismissal of the case. Now, Mershon is not going to do that. However, there will be an opening, if he denies it, to appeal the case. And I'm pretty confident once his case goes up to the higher courts, it's going to get overturned because it was an absurd legal theory and a total abuse by the judge and the prosecutor. Only then could Trump file a malicious prosecution case, as he has done in Florida against Jack Smith. That case, of course, over classified documents was dismissed by the judge. It's a lot easier to bring that kind of a case in Florida than it is in New York.
How do we say it in English? The loonies were in charge of the legal departments?
That's a good way to say it.
Breaking news.
Yeah, that would be that could be the title of your next book there, Greg. You've got
the loonies in charge.
The loonies in charge.
Bizarro world.
Yes.
They were crazed. They all suffered from an acute case of Trump derangement syndrome, TDS. And they went wild, and they didn't care about the law. They didn't care about the facts or the evidence.
They'll claim insanity.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll say we agree.
Momentary insanity.
Greg, thank you very much. It's great to have you here, Greg.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
And Rita, how about the top news of the day for Goya, our great sponsor?
It's the top news of the day, sponsored by Goya. Here's Rita Cosby.
And we do love Goya. I agree with you, John.
I love those beans.
I know, they're great. They are awesome. And here are the big Goya headlines, guys, as we were talking about. President Trump was at the New York Stock Exchange on Wall Street this morning, and he gave a shout-out to the great John Catsimatidis and also his incredible work, him and Margot, of course, creating WABC, which is fantastic. Also, the White House says the FBI and Department of Homeland Security are investigating the drone sightings over New Jersey. National Security spokesman John Kirby said in a White House briefing that they have not been able to confirm the sightings, even though many people have said they see it. He also added that it appears that using the technology they have so far, the alleged drones are actually manned aircraft, but he doesn't know what it is or where they're coming from, and Congress was very angry at his remarks. And everybody, those are the big headlines. After the break, we're going to talk with KT McFarland to get her take on this and a lot more.
You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back. And Rita, actually, I had two shout-outs today.
Oh, you did?
I was at the Bank America Christmas party, and the CEO, Brian Moynihan, and for years we were going to the annual board meetings, and 9 out of 11 years I was right on the price of the stock in the next year.
Wow, that's a good track record.
Brian Moynihan gave me a big shout-out today that I predicted $60 on Bank of America stock for 2025.
Wow. I want to know what happened to the other 2 years. What happened to the other 2 years there?
We had a bad year.
I don't know.
Like...
It sounds like inside information to me, John.
I am just a visionary.
Oh, great. But this was a big day.
I'm visualizing the future.
This was a big day. Don't bet. I'm telling you, with John, this is like
exactly. Don't ask me who killed Kennedy. I have no clue.
I want to know what's going to happen at dinner because he was there at the stock exchange early this morning, and then lunch this happened. So there's still room for other shout-outs.
George is going to the FBI dinner today.
Oh, George, you got to get one.
I can't go because I have a sniffle.
Oh no. Okay, so George, you got to get another shout-out. It's got to be a trifecta.
We will do it.
Okay, George, you promise? Okay, good. All right. Well, joining us now is KT McFarland. KT, any shout-outs for John while you're here?
Look, John has been so right about the importance of energy and low energy prices, fixing the economy.
Oh, there was an additional shout-out.
There
was an additional shout-out today at
In
lunch.
addition to KT?
You ready for KT? KT, you ready for this one?
All right.
He turns to Lee Zeldin, who's EPA thing, and he says, a lot of people want to go into nuclear energy. Make sure you approve the within a week.
Permits, right? The permits, right?
The permits within a week.
And he looked at you.
That long?
Yeah, exactly. He's on a roll, KT. He is on a roll.
Are you the new energy czar of the world?
No, I'm just
doing pretty good.
I'm going to be the stickball champ of Third Avenue.
He could be. He could be.
Ambassador of Third Avenue.
He could be the ambassador of everywhere. KT, what do you make of the drones? Speaking of which, we're talking about all the drones.
It's inconceivable to me that the United States government doesn't know what they are, who sent them, what their purpose is, or what to do about it. This is national security, it's domestic security, it's local security, and what they could shoot them out of the sky, they could scramble them, they could hack them, they could throw a butterfly net over them and catch them. But somehow it's not my problem, it's nothing to see here, move along. And I don't get it. I mean, either they know what it is and it's maybe a foreign country and they don't want to embarrass that foreign country, or they don't know what to do about it, so they're going to pretend it's not there. But the bottom line is they're not leveling with the American people.
Did you hear Jeff Van Drew, congressman of New Jersey, came out, and it was a wild statement saying there's like an Iranian mothership that had drones on it, and then he said he got intel. And at first it was like, what is this? And then Tony Gonzalez, who's the congressman from Texas, and others came out and corroborated it and said they heard the same thing in an intel briefing. I mean, that's wild.
But then, the Pentagon spokesman today, in response to that question, was that an Iranian mothership that sent these. This Pentagon spokesman had a very crafty little lawyered answer saying, no, there is no Iranian mothership off the coast of the United States.
At this time.
At this time. So, maybe
off the coast is 12 miles. They're for over 15 miles.
Right, exactly.
I'm glad we cleared that up. Okay. But it's interesting. You're right. The verbiage is interesting, Katie. And did you see some members of Congress came out afterwards and said, that guy's an idiot? That's a direct quote.
Yeah, but, so maybe it's not Iranian, maybe it's North Korean, maybe it's Chinese, maybe it's who knows what. Off the coast, 100 miles maybe isn't off the coast to them, but maybe 5 miles in. It's just the whole thing just stinks. And the fact that this is worse than the balloon that transited the United States. I mean, the balloon, they lied about it, they pretended it wasn't a problem, and then at the end of the day, they didn't really do anything about it until it was over the continental United States. But then the reason given ultimately was, we knew it was the Chinese, and we didn't want to upset the Chinese because we wanted to have a summit meeting with the Chinese. So again, is this the Biden administration are they either crooks or they're incompetents? Either way, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not comforting, and especially given everything, like you said, the track record. Before we let you go, KT, also Syria. It's really disheartening. I was looking at some video today, and it's some of the rebels there, and it's like Sharia law is back in Syria. There are definitely no good guys here, and it's a mess.
Well, that's the problem. It's a multi-sided civil war. And when the people say, well, the United States has to do something, don't get us in the middle of somebody else's civil war. And, it's great that Assad is gone. It's great that Russia's humbled. It's great that Iran is humbled. But you don't know who these guys are. I mean, they could turn into another Islamist state that wants to destroy Israel and kill everybody. It could be a nice guys, probably not, but it could be really nice guys who want a sweet Jeffersonian democracy. Just as likely as it could be several, there's like 10 different groups of these rebels. They could all just kill each other and fight each other. The problem I have with it all is there are chemical weapons, and they need to be secured immediately by the international community, by somebody, because as we saw with the fall of the Soviet Union, where there were unsecured nuclear weapons, where do they all go? Well, they'll all go to the black market. So somebody, I hope, is working with the Syrian government, whatever government that is, to get them out of Syria and get them dismantled. And if we have to pay some money to do it, okay, far better that than to have chemical weapons, which will command a very high price on the black market.
Did you see also, KT, that Biden is extending the sanctions waiver, giving them access to $10 billion? I mean, what is going on with these people? We're in the middle of
they were short. They had to pay the Houthis this week.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Houthis, the ragtag Houthis need help.
Firing at our ships.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that have closed off the Red Sea.
No one's ever been able to figure out the Biden administration's unrequited love affair with Iran. They enriched Iran to the tune of probably $150 billion. That's what Iran used to fight the proxy wars. And yet still the Biden administration just
ask
is
Obama.
in love with them.
Ask Obama.
Maybe, if you read Speaker Mike Johnson's tweet about the Act Blue, that foreign kickbacks to Act Blue Well, where is the money coming from? $1.5 billion in 15 weeks? Well, let's think about that.
You always follow the money, John. You know.
Yep.
So it's just follow the money, and the money trail stinks.
Well, if there's money, if we ship them $1 billion of equipment or something, or give them $1 billion, are they kicking back $100 million, 10% for the big guy?
Why would you assume they're not? It's on record. Ukraine.
It is scary. It is scary what's going on. It's very scary.
It is, and we need to get to the bottom of it. KT, thank you. Keep us posted, please.
We love you, KT. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. And, John, I understand Rand Paul is calling in.
From the great state of Kentucky, we have Senator Rand Paul. And, Senator, we're coming on to Christmas. We're coming on to so many things. What's going on in our country that keeps you up at night?
Well, the amount of debt we're accumulating scares the you-know-what out of me. $2 trillion a year. Our interest payments are now over $1 trillion. And so what's going to happen right here before Christmas is there's going to be another spending package. And Congress, unfortunately, is going to pass a spending package against my wishes. I'll be a no vote. But they're going to pass a spending package that will continue to borrow about $2 trillion a year.
That's a lot of money. And interest rates are coming up again next week, I understand. Powell hates Trump. What is Powell going to do?
I think that hopefully he won't politicize things with the interest rates. I think it's always difficult for individuals to be in charge of interest rates because, interest rates are the price of money. So they should depend on the supply and demand of money, not really on a politician's whim or the Fed chairman's whim. And so they're a useful signal. When interest rates are low, it's a signal for business to expand. When the interest rates go up, it's a signal that there may be a correction coming and maybe time to slow down on expansion. So they're a very useful price within the system, but I hate to see them politicized, and I hope Chairman Powell won't do that.
Dr. Fauci, has anybody determined yet? Did he know what he was doing? Or was he just stupid?
I think he should be in prison for what he did. I've referred him twice to the Department of Justice for lying to Congress, which is a felony. There's now discussion among the Biden administration saying that they're talking about pardoning him, even though he hasn't yet to be indicted for a crime. When the new administration comes in, when we have a new attorney general, I will send my criminal referral again to them, because we have evidence that he lied, not from me, but from his own private emails. We have a court order that revealed his emails, and in those emails it says he knew that they were doing gain-of-function research at that lab in China, and that he knew that there was a chance that a pandemic could occur from this accident, and they did it anyway. In public, he said, there's no way it could have come from the lab. But in private, he was acknowledging that, yes, there was a very good chance that the pandemic started in the lab.
At the end of the day, how many American people did we lose to COVID?
About 1 million people in America died, give or take. It's hard to know the exact number, but about 1 million. Some people estimate between 15 and 20 million worldwide. And it really, in the end, Anthony Fauci deserves a great deal of blame for this, because his opinion, and he stated this explicitly, was that even if a pandemic should occur, if a lab leak happens and a scientist becomes infected, this type of research, according to Anthony Fauci, was worth it. He said it was worth it even if a pandemic should occur, and that's what happened. We got a pandemic from a lab accident, and I think most of the people who had a loved one die or had people lose their life because of this pandemic, I think that they would want to disagree. I disagree with Fauci. I don't think any useful knowledge has come from this kind of research. It's very, very risky, and I have a new bill out called the Risky Research Review Act, in which we are going to try to have a presidential commission to oversee this such that this kind of accident doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Rand Paul. We'll do so many things happening. I'll talk to you again on Sunday, and look forward to talking to you Sunday morning.
Thank you.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear more from him on Sunday, John. It's called a doubleheader. And John, you brought up 10% for the big guy. After the break, Miranda Devine is coming up.
It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
Well, we are back.
We are back.
Rita, are we going to get down to the truth of what's going on in America?
Let's hope. And who better to get to it than our next guest, Miranda. Miranda, before we get to the truth, I want to play again what happened at the New York Stock Exchange.
No, we heard it three times already.
I want to play it a fourth time. All right, this is the Stock Exchange. This is President Trump this morning. Listen to this.
John, great job you've done at ABC. I'm really proud of you, and you've been so nice to me. Otherwise, I wouldn't actually acknowledge you at all. But you have been. That really is. It's a terrific job you've done.
Isn't that awesome, Miranda? This morning.
That is just such a fantastic shout out to WABC, and also typically Trump. It's hilarious.
It is. Yeah. It is. Oh my God, it was great. Miranda, we're talking also, of course, about everything on a serious note with Daniel Penny and this Luigi Mangione. You wrote a column. You know what's so scary? That there are these people out there that are shockingly glorifying this guy who took out the CEO of United Healthcare, and yet there's a lot of people vilifying Daniel Penny, who's a hero. What's wrong with people?
Honestly, I don't know. I think it really is a bad omen for the sort of moral compass of, a significant proportion of people. Obviously, they're not the majority, but they just seem to have lost sight of right and wrong. To be excoriating Daniel Penny, who was a good Samaritan, who we wish there were many of them on the subway, which has become such a menace. And unfortunately, there are people who would probably the same sort of people who wanted to defund the police and then turn around when they get robbed and say, "Where were the cops?" They're the same people. They just live in some sort of a fantasy bubble. This Mangione, Luigi Mangione, the gunman, if it's him, he's alleged to be the gunman who shot a man, a father of two, in cold blood, premeditated, in the back. I mean, that is not a hero. That is a coward and a psychopath.
What do you think? What are you learning? Because you found some details also about his travels and his background. Like this Luigi Mangione came from a well-to-do family and then went off the grid, but he was overseas as well, right?
Yeah, it's interesting how his life and Daniel Penny's life tracked almost identically through, right up until this year pretty much. And now they're both, in the clutches of Alvin Bragg. Two deaths, two killings in New York, very different men, but they're both born the same year, 1998. 3 years before 9/11. They grew up within a couple of 100 miles of each other. They were both very sporty. They both were very diligent, good-looking young men, curly hair. And they both, in their mid-20s, had a sort of a bit of a crisis where they didn't know where they were going. And they both traveled overseas. Penny went to South America, Central America, and Luigi Mangione went to Asia, particularly Japan. He was very interested. And then you know that through some of their writings, and Daniel Penny's given some interviews. And, he also wrote, Daniel Penny himself, in a sort of a job-seeking website, that he was searching for meaning and that he found his calling, which was after he'd been in the Marines and he traveled for a while, it was to help people. And that's exactly what he ended up doing. Whereas Mangione, in his writings about his travels, he's just criticizing the Japanese. He's saying, as if almost he's a scientist inspecting them from afar, a bunch of ants, and just critiquing their life as if they're not human. As if he has no empathy. Whereas Daniel Penny was all empathy. He said, that he looked around the subway car and saw the frightened faces of the women and children around him, and he knew he had to do something. He was scared, of course, but he said he was taught in the Marines that courage is not the absence of fear, it's your ability to overcome your own fear. So, they're both so similar. They both went to find themselves in trouble, but obviously one of them got a good message and one of them got a bad message.
Yeah, Daniel Penny, too. I mean, what a hero. And he came out the other day and he was saying that he couldn't live with himself if he didn't act at that moment. You know what's interesting? We also have George Venizelos with us in the studio here, longtime FBI, the assistant director for years in New York. And one thing I don't understand about the Luigi Mangione, where were his family? Everybody was looking at the picture of this guy when his mask was down at the hostel. There are pictures of him everywhere. And yet it seems like no family members or friends said, hey, that's my nephew or that's my former roommate. How is that conceivable, George?
Well, do we know that anybody, did the police, it seemed like they may have known who it was before he was caught.
But then NYPD said they didn't have a name until they got him at the McDonald's.
If you're a family member, you're going to recognize it right away. Also, he was off the grid. He was the problem. The mother was concerned about him. So right away, it should have clicked him right away. And they should have called right away. If they didn't, shame on them.
Yeah, and so far it seems like they haven't.
Because he could have went on a rampage and killed somebody else.
Yeah, and he still had a gun with him when he was caught.
So you can't just let that go. You have to. That's my son, and he's had issues lately.
Yeah, Miranda, have you heard? I haven't heard any family members or anybody singled him out or called, a tip line. I mean, he was all over the country, that picture. So a customer at McDonald's spotted him out,
Yeah, that's a very good point. And, shame on the family if they didn't actually do anything, because there's no way you could have missed that story. It was the biggest story in the country, one of the biggest stories in the world for a week. And his photograph, many photographs of him, which were quite identifiable, were everywhere in the media. So you would have to be living in a cave not to have noticed that. And if you knew him, if you were his relative, that would have hit you like a dagger to the heart. You would have gone, oh, no, that's where he is.
Yeah, Governor Patterson, real quick, your thoughts.
Well, I teach a class, and there are a lot of adults in the class. Only half of them knew about this case when we talked about it this afternoon.
Wow. Oh. Do they live under a rock?
Yes.
Really?
Wow.
No, that really happened, Miranda.
Wow. That's amazing.
I was shocked.
Wow.
I had to go back and explain the whole case to them.
Oh, my goodness. That's amazing.
They didn't know about the shooting of Brian Thompson.
They knew there was some kind of shooting, but they didn't know what it was about, and they didn't read anything about it. And then, once they heard about it, their points of view were interesting.
Well, you know
not
what?
Before then.
They need to be reading the New York Post and also listening to WABC Radio.
It's going to be a requirement in my class from now on.
Thank you, Miranda.
Thank you. What do we all stand for, guys?
Truth, justice, and the American way. God bless America.